world.
Yeah.
I'm not part of it. And I have to be ready for that. It's a big world out here. Everybody doesn't have to adhere to me.
That's called narcissism, right?
Yeah, it seems like it. Yeah. Seems like you're trying to bend the universe to your will. And it don't work like that.
We've been talking almost all day now. You haven't mentioned race a single time. We've mentioned economics, rich and poor, a number of times. Do you think that we overplay the role of racial conflict in American life?
Yes. I think race, it takes up too much space. There's people that we all have in our lives who are same race that we can't stand. And there's people in our lives from other races that we get along with way better. So it's not about race. It's not about color and gender and this and that. It's about who do you connect with? You know, who do you vibrate with? You know what I mean? Who's on the same wavelength? Who wants to be the same kind of person? Who wants to do the right thing when you want to do the right thing? That's who you connect with. So I think a lot of people make a lot of money off of the racists fighting against each other and bickering. And they the ones who push it in our face all the time that we're separate. And
does feel like there's more of that, doesn't there?
Yeah, it seems like it's like you're stuck in a bad movie and you can't get out. Like you can't find the exit and it continues to play on the screen and you're just running around looking for the exit, and this bad movie continues to just haunt you day by day by day by day. You know, that's what we're caught in. A never-ending, winless battle of, of race and color, and we're worried about, where you from, and, hip-hop. What's great about hip-hop, like, it was a saying in hip-hop, early hip-hop. I think Rakim coined this phrase, it ain't where you from, it's where you at. And it's so true. It's not about where you come from. It's about where you at right now.
I'm not imagining that this stuff is being pushed on us, right?
No.
Much more than in, say, 1986.
Yes, I think so. Because in 1986, you had movies and television, and it was all scripted, and we knew this is a scripted show. But I think now you have so many so-called reality shows that basically push the same thing, but in a reality-like setting. So, you'll watch a movie on race, okay? And you flip the channel now, you're watching a somewhat like documentary reality show that's highlighting and magnifying race and status and where you belong in this country and where you don't. And, we're highlighting the bad guys here. We're highlighting the good guys, it's always really showing controversy and pitting each other against each other. And with the reality shows, controversy sells. So they're not showing people getting along. What they want to get to is the fight, the conflict, the argument, the throwing of the bottles, the turmoil, the differences.
Does that bear any resemblance to your actual life as someone who lives in this country? Like, do you have racial conflict in your life day to day?
Probably, most of them are unseen. I'm not going to say I encounter racism. People know who I am. Police know who I am. Everybody knows who I am. So I probably get a pass on a lot of things that friends, family members, people I associate with, people I love go through all the time because they're not Ice Cube. But, I've had an insurance company drop me because they didn't like my point of view. Things like that.
Are you mad about it? Are you mad at people for their skin color ever in the course of a day?
I'm not mad at people because of their skin color. I'm mad at people because of what they do and the things they choose not to do.
Right.
There's a big problem in this country with the financial banking system and Black people and our access to capital. I know that when it breaks down, we have, 13 to 15% of the country trying to live off of half a percentage of wealth, 0.05% of wealth. So that's an issue. That's a problem. We have to have access to capital so we can do cool things for South Central. If we drove past one of those lots and a guy that lived there wanted to put a store up, he just couldn't get a loan because of his zip code. Now, guys from outside the area, they can come in and they can get a loan and put that store up. And that has to change.
How do people live in this state who aren't making a lot of money?
Things are so expensive. Houses that used to cost, like my father, I think he bought his house 47 grand, maybe. And now it's worth 650.
The house you grew up in?
The house I grew up in. It's worth $650,000.
And that's in South Central?
South Central, yeah.
Huh. So the middle class has shrunk in this state?
Without a doubt, or left. They definitely shrunk, and we have a lot of people leaving the state because they just can't afford it.
If you were running the state, wouldn't that be a big concern for you?
Yeah, I think it's a major problem because you not only have people leaving, you have industries leaving. Tesla, they just put up a plant in Texas, so they left California, and many big companies have left California.
I've noticed something weird. I've never been a big hip hop fan, but I've met a bunch of hip hop performers.
Yeah.
And they're all pretty open-minded, way more open-minded than, say, your average college professor. I wouldn't have expected that. Why do you think that is?
College professors, they all want their jobs. And if their staff or administration is saying, hey, we think this way at this college, sometimes they understand what that is and they stick to those guidelines. Rappers, we're free spirits for the most part. Some of us who are not locked down to these crazy contracts, but we know doing things the way they were done in the past hasn't really gotten us as far along as a people as we have wanted. So we tend to break the mold. We tend to be disruptors. We tend to not wait for an invitation to the party. We tend to either come in through the window, or kick the front door down. But we're coming to the party. So that's how we've actually been able to gain success, because everybody wants you to be in your little hole. Everybody wants you to stay in your lane and all that stupid stuff. And as soon as I hear that, I'm out of my lane immediately.
But you should stay in your lane, don't you think?
No. If I would have stayed in my lane, I wouldn't be here. I would still be in South Central Los Angeles, you know, not following my dreams.
So you're not surprised that rappers tend to be more open-minded at all?
Not at all. Not at all. Because they want to go for it. They want new experiences. They want to carve their own path. And, you know, they're not going to conform. They're not going to conform because that gets you nowhere.
Younger people say the news is full of lies.
In Kennedy's motorcade.
239 people. The death of Jeffrey Epstein.